Anyway, I'm Elaine Savage. I'm the president of the Palos Orland League. I'm so glad to see so many people out today. Spring must be springing, so we feel like coming out again to our meetings and everything. And we have a great topic today. But I'm the one that always has to do announcements. Even though we got a great topic today, we have a great one next month. We've got one on the electoral college. And the League of Women Voters, we study all sorts of different topics. So we have someone that's from our Deerfield League, who's also on the state of Illinois League of Women Voters Committee on the Electoral College. So she really knows it in and out. So she will be here to present that program. And we always have an annual meeting, and it's a dinner at the Midlothian Country Club. And we're kind of excited about our speaker this year. We have Kristen McQuarrie. She's on the Chicago Tribune editorial board. And we've had her out for some other informal meetings, but I think you'll really enjoy hearing her talk. And we haven't really decided on a topic, but I bet those Chicago mayoral elections might just creep in, yes. But she goes on a wide variety of topics. So if you're interested in that, just contact us, and that's on May 8th. And the thing that's happening right now, and I'm sure all of you know that we have a general election April 2nd. So the league, in the next 2 weeks, we're very busy doing candidates forums. And it's something I think we do very well. We're well trained at it, and I think it's a good service that we do to our committees. So if you're interested in helping out, we have one this Wednesday. It's District 135, Orland Park. I forgot where we're going to be at. Jeremy?
No, junior high, Orland Junior High.
Orland Junior High. Then on Thursday evening, for those of you that live in Palos Heights, we have one at the Recreation Center for the alderman races in Wards 1 and 3. And so we'll be doing that on Thursday evening. All of these start at 7 o'clock. Next Tuesday, we'll be in Oak Lawn at the Oak Lawn Hometown Junior High for those school district candidates. And we're still working on one in Orland Park for their trustees. I'm going to have to tell them cut off today if they don't have it finalized. They're interested in doing one, but we usually like to try to be done by the first day of early voting, which is next Monday. So we're sort of extending a little bit, but feel free. Like you said, well, I don't know how to do it. I started out as a timer. If you can run the timer on your iPhone, you can be a timer for the league. Or you may be just holding up the sign, say, 2 minutes, 1 minute,
You're feeling the power wave.
Oh,
There's a stop sign.
yeah, and there's a stop sign. So there's a lot of them are handing out pencils so people can write down questions to submit. So there's a wide variety. We do have trained moderators that do it, so they have the tough job. But come out, learn what's going on, and it really, really is interesting. I mean, first couple times I went to one, I thought, I'm doing it for the league. It's not in my area. I was still amazed, maybe what an issue was in that school district that wasn't in my school district, or whatever. So, and you may even find, like, you may hear right now about the Orland School District made major cuts and then they put them back in. Well, go to the forum and you may hear more of the details if you want to get into that. So that's what's going on. Sign up sheet, buy the flowers. I hope you will, and even if you don't sign up, come out and see what we're doing. It's very interesting. So Cheryl, this year different board members have been arranging the program. So Cheryl is the honoree this month, and she arranged our speaker for today in the program. She'll introduce it.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. My name is Cheryl Zach Gallagher, and I am kind of a new member to the League of Women Voters. And as my responsibility for the month of March, I was asked to try to get a speaker. And the first person that came into my mind was a person that actually I met back in 1994 when I started working at Governor State University. I took a job as the director of the Office for Economic Education there, and the dean, who was Dr. Estelle Allen, asked me, but since she's the dean, she told me that I needed to do this one job for her, and it was a summer program that she had initiated in Harvey District 126, 152. 152, yes. Harvey District 152 at Gwendolyn Brooks Junior High. And it was a program for the National Junior Honor Society for the kids to have a summer program where they would learn about economics and financial literacy. So I was in charge of that, and I would go out to Gwendolyn Brooks every day for 3 weeks and work with the 7th and 8th graders. And lo and behold, one of those 7th and 8th graders was a young lady by the name of Shaniqua Jones. And over time, I kept in touch with Shaniqua, and one day at Governor State, many years later, I ran into her in the hall when she was a student at Governor State, working on her master's or her PhD or something, I don't know, but now she's Dr. Shaniqua Jones, and she is very involved in the topic of restorative justice. And so I thought I would reach out to her to talk to us today about the topic, which is, I guess, not just a buzzword in education, we hope, but a real strategy that schools are beginning to use, and not only schools, but other areas of any institutions that are trying to use some different format for dealing with people who are doing some sort of peer mediation or having some problems. So it's just a different way of approaching different issues. So I'll let Shaniqua talk more about it because she knows more about it than I do. So I'd like you all to help me welcome Dr. Shaniqua Jones.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How are you? So I'm gonna do this without getting emotional because I need Ms. Gallagher to know the importance the framework or the foundation she laid for me in terms of education. So as she says, I'm from Harvey, Illinois, and oftentimes when people hear Harvey, they're like, but that's home for me. And even though I no longer live there, I do all I can to give back to the community. And so with that being said, when we talk about education, I met Ms. Gallagher when I was in 7th grade. So that's 1990. It was like I was finishing up my 7th grade year, going into my 8th grade year. That's a long time ago, but I'm 38. So I appreciate it because coming from where I come from, college wasn't really an option. If you graduated from high school, that was good. And if you didn't, it was still okay. As long as you didn't cause too much trouble, you kept your head down, and you stayed out of the limelight, you were pretty much easy breezy, right? And so my first introduction to Governor State was through you. And so we're driving from Harvey to Will County in University Park. I thought we were in another state. I had no clue, like, cornfields, what is this? Where are we going? I'm like, Miss Gallagher, what's happening? And so I get there and I'm like, man, one day I'm going to return to this place because this is awesome. Governor State is big. I've never been to a college campus or university. Wow, I could do this. And so what ended up happening, life happened to me in a way that I couldn't necessarily explain, and some people may be able to resonate with my story, so I'm going to give you a little bit of my background to help you understand that restorative justice is a way of life. Born 1980, Harvey, Illinois. My mom was 40 and my dad was 45. I was the child that came out of nowhere. Last born, only girl, and my mom was a preacher. And so for anybody that ever heard of preacher kids and the stigma that comes along with being a preacher kid, I lived up to it. For the first 15 years of my life, I was pretty cool. I kept my head down. I went to church 6 days a week. I read my Bible, even though I didn't understand the King James Version with the thee, thou, thou, and all those other good terms. I was told not to ask questions. You know, when you're in church or when you in worship, you don't ask the minister about your, you know, who is God? What does God look like? How am I supposed to believe in something I can't see? And so, but the issue was, my mom also taught me when you're in school and the teacher asks a question you don't understand, you ask questions. So now I'm confused because in one area of my life, you don't ask a question. In the other area, you ask as many questions as you possibly can to gain a better understanding of the teachings that the teacher is giving to you, right? So I was very confused. So I got to the rebellious age of 15 and was like, you know what? There is no God. I can't see it. I don't believe it. And I don't believe in any of this. And for whatever reason, I let those words flow off of my tongue, and life happened to me in a way that was somewhat tragic. And so I became like a runaway for one while. By the age of 17, I was pregnant with my first child by a drug dealer. So here you got the preacher's kid with a drug dealer, perfect match. Right.
Said no one ever.
Right. So then after that, I had my second child at 19, and I know it might get a little sensitive, so I apologize, but this is my story. After that, I'm like, you know what, I don't want to live like this. I thought I wanted to live this rebellious life, but I'm not. I'm very naive. All I know is what my mom taught me about God, so to be out here living a street life, that's not for me. Things that I thought I heard about or read about or watched in movies, I was like, it was live for me. It was real, and I'm like, I don't like this. I don't want to live this kind of life. So I tried to turn it around. But the thing about trying to turn your life around after living a life that's not pleasing to God or a higher power, if you continue to be in those same environments and you don't have a good sense of self and don't have self-love and self-discipline, it's hard to make that change become permanent. That change is only temporary, it's not permanent. And so I started going to South Suburban College. I'm like, okay, I got this. South Suburban College, by a show of hands, many people have heard of South Suburban College. It's a 2-year community college, right? I went there for 10 years. Why everybody laugh? I went there for 10 years off and on because once I got there, I was no longer seen as the girl with the 2 kids by the drug dealer. I was very smart. I was in National Honor Society. I was able to apply theory to practice in the classroom, very vocal. I always had something to say. You know, I was working on different projects, joining different clubs, being, learning about civic engagement. It was beautiful. But that was only short-lived because I go back to an environment where none of this really matters. And so instead of me trying to stand out, I wanted to fit in. And so I found myself in a situation one night hanging out, and I was raped. And because of that situation, it changed the dynamics of my relationships with people. But in my mind, I felt like if I could just get back to school, get good grades, I could kind of bury the rape situation. Because there are times when people go through things in their life, and in their mind, their form of healing is just to keep moving forward and forget about the situation, hoping that if you keep busy, that will no longer be an issue. But the issue with that is that there are times when you don't heal from something properly, that there's a trigger. Someone goes to hug you, and then you have this barrier. You smell a certain smell, or you go to certain places, and you find yourself tense and anxious because you haven't healed from that situation. And so after that happened, I didn't seek counsel. I went back to school, because in my mind, school was my safe space. That if I could just get back in the classroom, I could put all that behind me. And so shortly after that, I found myself in another situation. I met this gentleman who looked just like Usher, the R&B singer. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he looked just like Usher. And I was very materialistic. I didn't care about your soul, your heart. I didn't care about your 5-year plan or your credit report, your credit score. I was just like, he looks good. And that's good enough for me. He had all his teeth, I was like, that's a win. And so I ended up dating him, and I got pregnant with my first child by him. So now this is child number 3. Home life is like, we didn't raise you like this. We didn't raise you to be a baby maker. We didn't raise, the least you could do is at least get this associate's degree. Can you just focus on that? I'm like, that's cool, but I'm pregnant too, so what you want me to do at this point? So when I told the gentleman that I was pregnant, he was like, oh, we gotta get married. I'm like, me? Married? You sure? Like, I'm a little off. I'm trying to get him all to like, look, I'm just trying to be honest with you because most people aren't honest. When they date, they use their representative. Like, they show all the good things about them and not the things that happens behind closed doors. In that, I ended up sharing with him that I had a failed suicide attempt. So after the rape, I tried to commit suicide. And so when I shared all this with him, he was like, that means nothing. I'm like, boy, let me check your temperature. Okay, cool. So we got married. November 19, 2003. We get married. I give birth to my first child by him, January 7, 2004, which is this child here. He's one of my children. And then I learned something about IDOC inmate search through a friend. She was like, Shaniqua, I don't know, like this guy seems too good to be true, and I'm not trying to be all in your business, but I'm concerned about you and your well-being because you need to look him up. Look him up. yeah, go to Illinois Department of Corrections inmate search. And so I went there and I typed in his name and his date of birth and realized he was a registered sex offender. So I'm like, what do I do now? So I went to him and I asked, I said, you know, we're married. Why this, how is it that we're married and I never knew about this? Like, well, you never asked. Oh. Like, I don't know. So people be careful. That's all I'm saying. And so the story continues where he explained the situation. He's an African-American male. His mom was addicted to drugs when he was growing up, about maybe from 15 to 17, maybe 18. He comes from a prominent family from the Beverly neighborhood. And their family was disgusted and ashamed of the fact that someone in their family was addicted to drugs. So they got all their finances together, moved the entire family, her and her 7 children, which my ex-husband was the oldest, moved them downstate Illinois to an all-white community. He ended up dating a girl who was 17, he was 18. She was the commissioner's daughter. And when the commissioner found out, he was sentenced to 16 years for statutory rape. She was 2 weeks shy of being 18. And so he served half that time, 8 years, and when I was at South Suburban College, when he just got out for this career development program, and that's when I met him. And so when I got the gist of his story, I'm like, you're broken, I'm broken, and it doesn't take a mathematician to equate the fact that broke plus broke equals broke, or broken squared. And so I felt bad, and love, that wasn't love, that was pity. But I couldn't explain that then. My emotions didn't allow me to differentiate between the two. And so here I am married to someone that I feel sorry for, and he probably feels sorry for me too. And so that wasn't love, and that was dysfunctional. And so that situation leads to realizing he also was addicted to drugs. Because of his background and because of the things he went through, his coping mechanism became drugs. So here I am with 3 small children, married to someone who has his own background that is extensive, as well as he's addicted to drugs and he's a registered sex offender. And for those who understand the way these offenses work, you can only live in certain neighborhoods. You can't stay by a senior citizen building, you can't live by a school, a library, a church. I'm like, well, can you live? Because every other corner is either an in-house daycare or a daycare facility, a school, a church, or something. So we didn't stay in the best neighborhoods. And I tried to stick it out. Trying to stick it out led to domestic violence because his addiction didn't get any better. And then I learned I was pregnant with my 4th child. And to speed up the story, while I learned I was pregnant with my 4th child, I also learned within that same 2 weeks that I had cervical cancer. And the doctors asked me to make a decision because I can't receive treatment pregnant. And at that point I was like, if God is real, then why would he send me through this? And if for any reason when I tried to commit suicide and you let me live then, why would you let me live just to be tormented like this? And even though I didn't necessarily believe, it was a matter of like, I don't know what else to believe in. I have to believe in something. And so the doctors, for those who have had children or know about how pregnancy works with the different trimesters, opposed to me going to the doctor every month down to when you get to your 3rd trimester, you go every 2 weeks, down to every week. I was going every week. And I had to wear a harness for my entire pregnancy to hold my cervix in place. And I had it, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl February 5th, 2005. That's Ariel. Shortly after giving birth to Ariel, my mom pretty much took custody of my kids because while I was in the hospital, my older children told my mom about the things I was experiencing at home. And because I had to have I had 7 procedures done called leaps, where I had the cervical cancer removed and other frozen and all the different cells, and it's complicated, but whatever they did, I was healed. As of August of 2005, I've been cancer-free. The issue was that when my children had the opportunity to find a safe space, and my mom, they told her everything. They told her about me being stabbed. They told her about my hip being fractured. They told her about, getting hit with a pot, or all these different things that was happening in the house. Because in my mind, as long as it was me that was receiving the harm and not my children, I'll live with it. Because I didn't want my children harmed. But what I failed to realize, my children were still harmed. Because in my mind, I'm just thinking about the physical altercations. I'm not thinking about the verbal or the mental abuse that they had to experience because of what I put them through. And so I'll take a break from my story real quick to talk about restorative justice, because oftentimes people don't realize that when there's a situation between two people, those two people are not the only people affected. The people that care about you, the people that don't care about you, the people who witnessed it are affected. And then that goes into speaking about trauma. When you think about restorative justice, think about oftentimes if I hit Ariel, so I'm like, wake up, and Ariel hits me back, everyone in this room witnessed it. That could have reminded you of something from your childhood. That could have reminded you of something that happened yesterday. That could have been anything. And if you have not healed from those situations, that's trauma for you as well. So now what we need to do is bring our shareholders together that was affected by that particular situation to give voice to it. When you give voice to it, it's saying like, we need to heal from this. And I'm not saying that we're going to have this kumbaya moment, everyone's going to walk out holding hands. But if you have been victimized, been deemed the victim, and this person has been deemed the person who caused harm, because I do all I can not to say victim and offender. Because those two terms alone carry so much weight. And when you bring these people together and their support systems, it's sitting here saying like, what is the issue? Because that's just the surface. Us hitting each other is just the surface. There's something deeper than that. Did I say something to Ariel? Did Ariel say something to me that affected me because something she said reminded me of something from my past? And it could be easy for me, like for those who know me, which 1, 2, 3, I'm a hugger. But see, statistics says that when someone has gone through something so traumatic that I've experienced in my life, especially when talking about rape, we typically, society says I should create a barrier. It should say that because of what I went through in my life, I can no longer get too close to people because it reminds me of the rape. Healing from that means that I'm going to outlive what the stigma says because I'm a loving person by heart. I'm not going to allow my life to be determined by this one situation. It's easy to fall into this slump to say that because this happened, I can't move on, but I refuse to live my life that way, especially when I know I have children who look up to me. And so back to the story, what ended up happening by my mom, and I'm the only girl of 3 brothers. I'm 38 years old. My brothers are 50, 51, 53, and 55. They're like my little dads. Especially my middle brother. He thinks he's my father. Don't tell him I said it. When they found out, they went to find him, and they beat him up. Now, the thing about my life story is that I'm the rebel in my family. Now, I used to be a rebel without a cause, and I'm still a rebel, but I'm just a rebel with a cause now. My brothers, they don't have tattoos, piercings, they've never been in gangs, they got good credit scores, they have all that teeth. I'm big on teeth, I don't know why. That's just my thing. But they are honest young men. And so when you put honest people in a predicament because of their loyalty and their love, I created this monster because of decisions I made. So because of the decisions I made to be with a young man that no one, my family was like, from day one when they met, I'm like, oh no. I was like, oh, give him a chance, guys, he's cool. My middle brother was like, I'm telling you, there's something about him I don't like. I can't put my finger on him. Well, we found out that my brother was right. So now I seek him in counsel for all my situations. I'm like, what you think about this? And so I put my brothers in a situation where they're like, this is too much. We didn't know all this was happening to you because I isolated myself. I didn't, I'm not still big on hoodies. I want to wear big clothes. I don't want anybody to see the scars because the scars are there. And so my brothers made a decision like, we got to find him. And even though, I don't know, we hope it don't go too far, but we got to make a point to stay away from her. Disappear. And so August 2005 come, I'm released from the hospital the next month because they kept me in the hospital for observation, which means I didn't even have a relationship with my own child that I just gave birth to because I was in the hospital the entire time. From February 5th till August, September. My mother was more of her mother than I was. They would bring her to the hospital to see me. I mean, the bond was there, but at the same time, it was a little touchy because I'm like, man, I give birth to a child and I can't even see. And so I get out September 2005, clean bill of health. I'm like, yes, you know, I can do this. I'm going back to school. I told you every time I overcome an obstacle, I'm like, I'm going back to school. And that was my safe space. And so what ended up happening was this young man, we're gonna call him Usher because I can't say his name. We're gonna call him Usher. Usher gets out of rehab. Usher is looking like the young man I met when I first met him. And what do Shaniqua do? I took him back. And so I take him back, and it was short-lived. 3 months later, he was back on drugs again, and even worse this time, to the point where I made a conscious decision, I'm done. I went to my family like on bended knee, like, please, 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 help me. I have these 3 daughters and 1 son. I don't wanna do this anymore. And my mom was like, I've been praying for this day, but you have to keep your promise that if we help you, you won't go back again. So I made the decision I wouldn't go back. The thing about that was I was renting an apartment and I needed to break my lease. So I called the property manager. The property manager, he was like, word out that, you had some things happening. We'll give you your security deposit back. You can have, just come by. Let's make arrangements the date and time to come by and get everything. My brother's like, don't worry about anything. Just get your birth certificate, social security cards, all your important information. We'll replace everything, clothes, furniture, whatever. Leave it all there. You can have a sale, and give it away. I don't care. Great. And so I go there one day, and I'm in the apartment, and when I walked in, there was a certain scent that let me know that my ex-husband had been around. I'm like, is he a squatter? I don't know, but, and I'm just, just being honest, I'm like, let me just get in here, get my stuff, and get out. So I'm on the phone with my oldest daughter, and she's like, Mommy, I'm so happy for you that you're making the decision to finally leave, because we're tired. And I'm like, I got you, boo. Everybody's boo. If I love you, you end up being boo in some fashion. But her nickname is Pooh, P-O-O-H. Like Winnie the Pooh, because that was my favorite character. But that's off subject. And so I'm on the phone, I'm like, I got you, I'll call you right back. I put my phone in my back pocket. And I go to the closet, I reach up to get this file that has all our important information in there. And as I'm getting ready to walk out the door, somebody chokes me from behind. Chokes me out, and I pass out. When I come to, I got my phone is buzzing. Zzz, 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 zzz. That's my daughter trying to call me. I must have butt dialed her. So she heard everything that happened. So I'm asking her, I'm like, Patricia, that's my oldest daughter's name. What? I'm like, I was just talking to you, and I'm laughing because that's another coping mechanism around. When I'm going through something that I can't explain it, I'm laughing so I can figure it out. And she was like, Mommy, it sounded like you was attacked. Are you okay? And I'm like, I think so. But I'm like, I feel like I taste blood. What's going on? I'm like, I'm on my way. I didn't go look in the mirror. I didn't take a selfie. We didn't have, camera phones then. So I get to my mom's house, and my mom like, oh my gosh, Shaniqua. I'm like, what, Mom? Like, and I feel like my, everything, all this hurts. Jaw, everything. She said, what happened? I said, I honestly don't know. Like, I feel weird, but I can't really explain it. And she was like, well, just get in the shower. So I get in the shower, I'm cleaning myself up. By the time I get out, all 3 of my brothers, my sister-in-law, everybody's at the house like, what is going on? What happened? Mama said this, that, and the other. Patricia said it sounded like he was fighting. And I'm like, you know what, guys? I'm going to be honest. I can't necessarily say, but I got a feeling he was in that apartment because when I walked in, there was a certain scent I smelled. And it smelled like him, but I can't say for certain. So they called the police come out, and they was like, can you just give us as much information as possible? I said, did you see anyone? I said, I didn't see anyone, but I promise you I think I know who did it. They was like, well, we can't go off of what you think. did you see him? Did someone else see him? Is there a surveillance camera? This, that, and the other. And I'm like, this is too much because I feel like he's about to get away with murder because I know he attacked me. I just can't prove it. And so I filed a police report. They end up arresting him for something different that he did somewhere else. Because now his addiction is so out of hand, it's like he's just everywhere doing different things. 2 weeks later, started getting sick. And I go to the doctor, and the doctor tells me I'm pregnant again. So I'm like, I'm not trying to be funny. I haven't been with anybody, so unless I'm Mary reincarnated, I don't know what's going on. And she was like, Shaniqua, the only thing I can say at this point is that you were raped. I'm like, but I don't know. So that was rough. So I get back home and I tell my mom, she is like boo-hoo crying. My brothers are like, are you gonna go through with this? I'm like, yeah. And so, with technology, by the time I got to the mid part of my second trimester, we were able to determine who the father of this child was. It was my ex-husband. And he was arrested. And then after that, I go into labor November 19, 2006. When I go into labor November 19, 2006, I'm in labor for 3 days. I didn't give birth to this healthy baby girl until November 22nd, which is my 26th birthday. But from November 19th to the 22nd, it was very touchy because I had built so much scar tissue from the surgeries I had the year prior to for the cancer that I had so much scar tissue that I was in labor, but I wouldn't dilate. And so they tried all these different procedures, CV strips, inducing, and then reducing the induction, and I'm going into distress, the baby's going into distress. And on the 22nd, actually November 21st, right after midnight, they had to call my mom, who's my emergency contact. Imagine she's 66 at this point. Knees are failing her, having a lot of health challenges, and so she's no longer mobile, and she can't come to the hospital. I'm in the hospital by myself. This was scary, it was creepy, I was nervous. I'm like, forget it, I almost want to give up because I'm in pain. I can't even think straight. Anybody ever had a toothache to the point where it felt like you couldn't think? That's how I felt. And so I remember them calling my mom and was like, Miss Anderson, we apologize for calling this late, and it's very unfortunate because we don't have good news. At this point, we need you to tell us who life to save. Do you want us to save your daughter's life or this unborn child life? And because my mom was a believer, she said, do whatever you can to save my child. But if for any reason things take a turn for the worse, please allow me to stay on the phone so I can hear. And as she's on the phone, I can hear her saying, the blood of Jesus, the blood of Jesus, the blood of Jesus will make you whole. And she's saying all these different things. She's praying and she's crying and she's loud and everyone looking like, oh, okay. Ooh, this is rough. And so as I laid there, and I'm getting to the point where I could hardly talk anymore. I went from being able to communicate well, still cracking jokes, even in pain, to not being able to talk. And so when my eyes started closing, I saw darkness. And I remember as a child, they said, when you get ready to go home to glory, you see the light. And I didn't see light. So I got nervous, y'all. I really got nervous. So I started saying the sinner's prayer because I'm like, if this sinner's prayer get me into heaven, I'm going to do it. Like, I got to make this right. And so as I laid there dying, it went from me being real shallow. Because I really wasn't saying the sinner's prayer because I believed in the sinner's prayer. I was saying the sinner's prayer because I was afraid. So it went from me being shallow and afraid to really having a conversation with God like, look, I know I have lived a raunchy life. A life that I created for myself. And I know that there's such a thing as a calling. I believe I have a calling on my life. I understand that I've done some things that I'm ashamed of. I've been through some things that people really don't ever want to verbalize and be open about. But if you will save me, Save me from myself. Save me from my negative thoughts. Save me from not loving myself. Allow me to not just survive, let me live and let me thrive. I may curse every once in a while, I may turn up, I don't know, but God help me. If you help me, I promise you I will do better. I'm going to raise my children. I'm sticking around for the long haul, and I'm going to live according to your will. Next thing I know, I ended up having emergency surgery. I had emergency C-section. When I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. I named her Sanaa Gray. She was 8 pounds, 12 ounces, and 24 inches. That was a grown woman. And so when I got out the hospital, my brothers took me straight to Markham Courthouse, room 119, to file for divorce. I filed for divorce because my ex-husband went from one prison to another prison. It was hard to locate every time he moved, and so it took a long time for this divorce to be finalized. My divorce was finalized May of 2008. And then, guess where I went back to school to? South Suburban College. I'll go to South Suburban College. It gets so crazy that the president himself called me to his office like, Shuka, we love you. We have you all on the website, but you can't stay here anymore. Look, you got to move on. No, you're no longer a star student. You have every certificate South Suburban College has to offer. No degree. You have enough credits to get 2 bachelor's degrees if you really wanted it. And so he gave me the information to Instant Decision Day at Government State University. And I'm like, Government State? That's where Miss Gallagher took me. I was like, okay. So I go to Instant Decision Day, August 2010. It took me some time to get my life on track. I go to Instant Decision Day, it's July 2010. I get there, they accept all of my credits. Well, not all, they accepted 79 of my credits. To go into the bachelor's program, it was a general liberal arts, which formerly was the Board of Governors, with a minor in social work. I finished in a year. I started August 2010, finished December 2011, walked across stage that summer 2012, because Government Day we have one commencement ceremony. By the time I walked across stage for my bachelor's degree, I was in my 2nd semester of my master's in criminal justice, and I co-created which is the first restorative justice program in higher education in the state of Illinois. I co-created the restorative justice certificate program in Government State, which was part of my thesis for my master's program. So I got my master's in criminal justice with a specialization in restorative justice. Once I was like, I'm on a roll. I like this. And that's when we ran into each other. And I was like, I know her. I'm like, Miss Gallagher. It's me, Shaniqua Anderson from Harvey. She was like, Shaniqua? Like, yes. And so we reconnected. And I kind of shared some of the things I've been through, not all the things I just shared today, but now you know that's what I've been up to. I entered the interdisciplinary leadership program, got my doctorate of education with a specialization in higher education administration, and I graduated in May 2016. I was able to get 3 degrees in 5.5 years because I gave it all to him, right? And so with that being said, the day I graduated, had my hooding ceremony, graduated, all those good things, the day after I released my first book about my life, called 12, A Memoir to My Younger Self, which is basically what I just shared with you today. After that, I wrote the Restorative Justice Practice Training Manual because I do a lot of training with a lot of the school districts. I also accepted a 2-year assignment at Trinity Christian College, which ended now in 2000. We're in 2019, it ended last year. I was the Director of Community Engagement Diversity Programs. I am the full-time dean now at Chicago Collegiate Charter School, where I am my children's dean.
Guys, we'll pray for you guys.
I know. That's a little challenging sometimes because I have to pop into class like, and it's fun. The kids love it.
Send her back to her office.
My office is the best office at that campus. Am I telling the truth? I'm telling the truth, right? Say yes. Outside of that, I'm also a restorative justice practitioner for the Cook County Southland Juvenile Justice Council, I operate a program at Thornridge High School, which is located in Dalton, with District 205, which that's my alma mater. I went to Thornwood though. I'm a Thunderbird. I run a one-year pilot program of restorative justice there to help them decrease suspensions, and I have been able to successfully do so. They took a snapshot of their suspensions from January 2018. They had 133 suspensions. Implementing restorative justice this past August up until now, they took a snapshot January 2019, they had 21. That speaks volumes. This is about relationship. Restorative justice is all about relationship, building relationships, creating relationships, and sustaining those relationships. So even when Shaniqua Jones or Dr. Jones is not around, it's still effective. I also run a program that's being ran right now every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in Harvey with the Department of Juvenile Justice. I have several young men that are part of the Aftercare Youth Program, and they come and we do peace circles, helping them build those soft skills that they didn't have the opportunity to build younger. I have a 19-year-old who has 7 children. I see more tattoos than I can see his face. But that's his norm. So how, oftentimes when you're in environments where it's dysfunctional, you don't know it's dysfunctional until you get into an environment where like, this is a little different. And I can resonate with that because I remember where I grew up in Harvey, I remember when my brothers were growing up, my family was the first black family in the first war department. And then by the time I came along, I'm like, I don't know what y'all, because everybody looked like me. So when did this happen? That was 1975, 76. And so my first interaction with people who didn't look like me was in high school. That was culture shock for me. Because until then, everyone looked like me. Then I got to high school and was like, where are we? We're in South Holland. Even though South Holland is the next town over from where we live in the first ward in Harvey, that was culture shock for me. And then I'm thinking, a lot of people in my community thought we were Huxtables. But I didn't even know we were poor until I got to high school. Because they talking about surf and turf and steak and shrimp and lobster tails. I was like, what's a lobster tail? And being naive, there were times when people would say different things, and I would just laugh because I really didn't know what they were talking about. And hope they didn't point, like, you don't even understand what we're saying. I was pretty sure somebody been in a situation like that before, because I was raised not to ask questions in certain situations. So I'm not going to ask, I'm just laugh it off. So when I see these young men that I'm working with now, I'm helping them now at the age of 19 and 20 to build soft skills that I wish they would have gotten when they were young. Which speaks to my next point about being restorative. So I'm a college professor. I love working with adults because in my mind it's easier. They have a little bit more structure. I don't have to go over the basic rules of engagement. But I realized when I was at Trinity Christian College, when my African American students were sitting in class, they didn't have soft skills. They didn't print the syllabus. And I'm not saying all, I'm just giving you an idea of just some of the things I experienced. They didn't print out the syllabus. They didn't have their books. They didn't read chapter 1. They didn't have annotated notes. They didn't have anything. They didn't even have the books. And then when we're sitting in class and we're having a healthy debate, they didn't understand what a healthy debate was. Because in their eyes, the moment that someone didn't say anything that was not to their liking, it was like an explosion. So that's the reason why I went back to be a dean full-time at a charter school, which was culture shock for me, because in my mind I felt like, me as a person, what can I do to make a difference? Because if I see we're setting our children up for failure and they're getting to college but can't get the college degree and matriculate from freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and beyond, then maybe I need to go back to the elementary school level, the junior high level, and now let's have these healthy debates so you can learn how to communicate now opposed to having a culture shock when you get to college. And so what I do Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at Chicago Collegiate Charter School, I'm having peace circles. And so that leads me to this point about delving deeper into restorative justice. My life has been restored. What I share with you, I don't live my life. I don't live my life with the idea that I don't like certain people. I love everybody until you give me a reason otherwise. The 2 men that raped me, I still pray for them. I pray for their souls. because that's not my burden to carry. I've been healed from that. Now, I'm not saying we got to sit in the same room and, you know, and hold hands, any of that. I'm okay if I never saw them again. But I also know, too, that I've been in Walmart, in Homewood, and saw one of my perpetrators. And instantly I was like, whew, awkward. Now, the old me prior to healing could have easily been like, and had a whole panic attack. But when I saw the young man, we made eye contact. And it was like, God bless you. That's what restoration feels like. And it doesn't necessarily happen in that instance. It takes time. And so now that I'm at the elementary school and I have a student who's being sent to the dean office, which means they're coming to see me because they could not stay in the classroom. Classroom management was not working. The teacher tried all the teacher moves, moving their seat, going to the reflection desk, redirecting them or restating the directions, whatever the case may be, and none of those things worked. So now they come to the dean office, and opposed to me saying, Ayana, what did you do? It's more like, Ayana, tell me your side of the story. So now that student has the ability to, even if it's going to take them time, this is your safe space. I need you to be able to articulate what happened, what led you to be right here in this moment, in this office, in front of me, because now I got to call home. And when I call home as a dean, I want to call home with part of the story. I want to call home with the entire story. So what the teacher is presenting to me is this restorative justice referral form I created that shows all the teacher moves that they tried, that shows the infraction itself, the student walked out of class, or the student wouldn't follow directions, or gross disrespect of a student or a teacher, and all these different things, about 16 different things that the entire school community came together to say, these are what we consider deemable enough to go to the dean office. So, mind you, most schools don't have this type of advocacy for parents, because what happens is some schools want to take on a restorative approach but haven't told the parents about it. And so now when a situation presents itself, we're being reactive because people are not learning about restorative justice until a situation presents itself. But how can we be proactive? So what we did at the beginning of the school year is say, hey, I'm coming in as a restorative justice practitioner and say, I want you to understand what restorative justice is as a parent so you can implement certain things at home to make life easier when they come to school and vice versa. Because I can teach you about restorative justice all day long at school, but if they go back home to a dysfunctional environment, we're going to keep repeating the same situations because home life is priority. And so what I was able to do is have this town hall meeting with the parents and say, this is what restorative justice is in terms of meeting the criteria of Senate Bill 100 that took effect September 15, 2016, that says schools will do all they can to provide alternative approaches to suspension. So it's not saying that, oh, suspensions are going out the window. It's saying that in certain situations, it's a matter of a conversation. In certain situations, it's a matter of a mediation. Or it might even mean like you need to see the social worker because if you're asleep in class and one teacher allows you to sleep in class because at least, you know, they're not disrupting anybody, but then another teacher, you do the same thing in another teacher class and that teacher sends you to the dean office, now that sends mixed messages because how is it that we're all supposed to speak the same language, but I can sleep in this class but can't sleep in this one. Now I get a call, you know, I have to go to the dean office and I get a phone call home about me being asleep. And then mom, when I call, like, yeah, we're going through some things. Well, mom, what are you going through? How can we support you? That's what being restorative is about. Opposed to zero tolerance, like, we don't care about you being asleep. We're not looking at the child, we're looking at the problem. And the problem needs to be removed, even if it's temporary. So that's to give you an idea of, I'm hoping to give you an idea of a glimpse of what restorative justice is really about. Let's get down to the deep-rooted issue. Because once you get to the root of it, then you start to see how things manifest in terms of that situation not happening anymore. So I was able to work with that mom. I wrote my third book came out in January. It's called God Is, The 6 E's to a More Productive Life. I gave every parent, not every, I'll take that back. I gave most of the parents a copy of that book, the PDF version, to help them with time management. Like you need to be able to say, this is how you use 168 hours in a week. You have 168 hours, you need to be able to account for them in these 6 E's. From energy to expression of thanks, which is gratitude, whether that means, the spiritual side of things, and all these different E's, and you need to be able to maximize your time. And how can we help you do that so that Johnny can go to bed on time at night and not be on Fortnite, and get to school on time and learn? So my approach is different with each parent. It's not like you can't take a one-size-fits-all approach, because once you start building relationships with people, you understand their triggers. So that's me being the liaison with the teacher and the student to say, the reason why you having issues with that is because when you approach him from behind, that makes him very uncomfortable. But because you're the authoritative figure and he expressed to you that makes him uncomfortable, you didn't see that as him using his voice and advocating for himself. You saw that as a form of disrespect, and now you're putting him out. But you approaching him from behind reminds him of something he went through recently this last summer. So could you please, can we figure out a way where you communicate with him, or can you approach him from the side? Don't catch him off guard. Catching him off guard is a trigger for him. That's what restorative justice is about. And it's not saying you pacifying. It's saying that you're enabling them and you're empowering them to use their voice effectively, so when they get into my college classroom, they know how to communicate. They know how to interact. They know how to have those soft and hard skills that are needed to matriculate, not just in college, but in life. So that's that. What I'll be able to say today about restorative justice changed my life. And I'm telling you this because I shared my life story with you with a room full of strangers. I have no shame in my story because I live my life by the mantra, a journey not shared is a soul not healed. What is the point of me going through anything I've ever gone through just to keep it to myself? I'm a standing miracle. All my children are miracles, but my last two are definitely miracles. And so when you talk about restorative justice, I don't want you to think about restorative justice as a framework or a school initiative or a theory or a practice. I want you to think of it as a way of life. Everyone in this room has been hurt at some point in their life. And it might not be extravagant as my story, but someone has disappointed you, someone has hurt you, someone has offended you. And if you have not learned how to effectively maneuver through those situations, when that situation presents itself again with another person, another circumstance, and a new environment, you're not even going to know how to interact with that person, or you create a barrier. Think about it. When you get into a situation with certain people that are a little challenging, you've already made up your mind when you confront that person how the scenario is going to pan out. And sometimes we are our worst enemies because our minds have conjured up something we experienced before and it went bad. So we automatically think like, here we go again. When I get in front of this person, I already know when I say this, they're going to say that. Then I'm about to say this, and now, and you go back and forth. So when the situation presents itself to be totally different than what you conjured up in your mind, it's like shocking to you because you haven't healed from it in the last situation. And that's almost like when parents tell us, my mom always told me, you will be faced with the same situation until you learn the lesson. You don't learn the lesson, you're going to keep repeating the same things over and over again, and that's insanity. And so when we're talking about being restorative, when we're talking about this being a way of life, I just want all of us to take a deeper look, not even just in the educational system, but also when we talk about criminal justice reform. When we talk about criminal justice reform, it's being able to have a group of people with Lieutenant Governor, which I was trained with her, and I'm honored to be trained with Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. I love her. She's my RJ, she's my RJ person. When I have questions, she's my go-to. I hope you remember that too. But having a team of people to look at these different cases to say, we dropped the ball in certain situations. How is it that in this person commits the same crime as this person, but because either the color of their skin or the amount of money they have will determine the amount of time they will not spend? Who advocates for the voiceless? Who advocates for those who are poverty-stricken? Who advocates for those who have no clue or understanding? Which takes me back to when we talk about education, I look at parents who like, I know I don't want my child to have this label with an IEP. When we set our children up for failure when we don't give them the assistance that they need because of the shame, the stigma that comes along with having an IEP. There's nothing to be ashamed about, especially when you're talking about getting the support that you need. And so what I will say this year alone, being able to have those conversations with parents, like, I'm not coming to you as if you're a bad parent. What I am saying to you is, if you don't nip this in the bud now, this is going to manifest into a situation that's going to be out of everybody's control. Those are those restorative conversations. Being able to have peace circles. I had a peace circle last week for a bullying situation. There's an 11-year-old young man sitting fighting for his life right now in Coleman's Children's Hospital because of a bullying situation. There were supposedly some teachers and some students bullying this young man. He went home, hung himself. His older sister found him, rushed him to the hospital. He's been on life support for the last 2 weeks. So my job as an educator, my job as a restorative justice practitioner, and an advocate for our youth is to say that when something comes up on Musically, which is one of these apps that the kids use to dance and do all these challenges, but people can leave nasty comments. And so people fail to realize, parents, I need you to control what's happening at home. How is it that your child is on Musically at 3 a.m. and have to be here at school at 8 or 7:45 or 7:15? And now we got this bullying situation that's cyberbullying, so I'm bringing everybody together. I said, you know, we live in a day and age, parents don't answer my phone calls because sometimes when they see my number pop up, they're like, oh Lord, here go Dr. Jones again. Yeah, and you're going to get tired of me until we wrap this up. And so I text all the parents, like from the office of, from the desk of Dr. Shaniqua Jones, I'm reaching out to you because I need you to be at the school at 4:15 p.m. to discuss a matter of the heart in terms of bullying. Your child name was involved in the situation. I need you here as soon as possible. If for any reason you're unable to attend, I need you to give me an alternative time because we need to make sure this matter is resolved. I had 13 parents there, and we sat in a circle. Now, we initially came to talk about bullying, and we talked about that. But there were so many different things that people had concerns and they needed support and things were happening at home that they found this to be a safe space. So when you have these peace circles, it could be reactive, but it also leads to being something proactive to build community. Saying that we're here together. Whatever needs to be said, say it. Whatever supports, because at the school is more than just school these days. Schools are like the community organization, the safe space. We got a food pantry now. It comes out maybe once or twice a month. Clothing. I mean, I'm buying Carmex for the kids' lips because I'm like, your lips are like concrete, and I need you to be able to think. And I'm tired of you steady want to walk out the class because your lips are dry. No, I need you to stay in class. So here go Carmex for everybody. You need Vaseline on your face here. But you need a snack, okay, I'm about to run to Dollar Tree, I'm about to go buy snacks for everybody. You staying in this class. Because sometimes when students don't understand the work and the work is too challenging, they will act out. Because I'd rather act out and get out of doing the work, but what they fail to realize, the work still exists. So coming to the dean office is not going to be a scapegoat. The dean office, I bring your work with you, you're going to figure this thing out together. Maybe you just need a timeout. Maybe you just need one-on-one. You need to flip, you need to do a sit-up, what you need to do real quick, because I need you to get back in class. That's what restorative justice is all about. So real quick, I'm going to show this video. It's a 2-minute video, less than 2 minutes, about restorative justice. And then I'll have some space, a few minutes for Q&A. And then I'll give it back to Ms. Gallagher.
Hi, my name is Dr. Shaniqua Jones. I completed my doctoral degree in interdisciplinary leadership with a specialization in higher education in May 2016. My diverse background in academics and my profession, as well as my personal journey, has allowed me to understand the concerns of those I serve. With a proven professional code of high standards within the post-secondary arena, I currently work in a role as a director and professor at a private faith-based institution. I advise students to serve in various capacities across the country, mentor scholars with a rewarding college experience through academic preparation and spiritual formation ingenuities, and provide opportunities to discuss matters of the heart as it relates to diversity and social justice utilizing restorative practices. Today, I use my collection of experiences as the foundation for my restorative justice trainings that I provide to churches, schools, community organizations, and the Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice. Many ask questions about restorative justice and its importance. Well, I'm here to shed a little light on the importance of using restorative justice and restorative practices to combat the systemic racial divide that leads to incarceration. The poverty to prison and the school to prison pipeline is real, especially for children of color. If we authentically change the way we handle minor infractions from a restorative lens in our educational systems, we can decrease the likelihood of our youth going from suspension or expulsion to juvenile detention centers and prisons. To learn more about creating positive, sustainable change through my work, go to www.shaniquajones.com.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
What you're doing in the school, is this something that you learn from other schools? Or is this going to be common to other schools?
So I will say this, what I've noticed is that a lot of the schools who are on, when you go to the Illinois Report Card website, the schools who are highlighted most are those who are deemed not as suitable in terms of the culture and the climate, and they have an increased amount of suspensions. A lot of those schools have reached out to me to help train.
Especially before.
Now, the biggest thing I want schools to understand is that when they ask me to come out and do a training, I don't want to just train the administrators, because usually administrators are far removed from the daily student interaction. I want to train the teachers. I want to train the bus driver. I want to train the janitor. I want to train the lunch lady. Anybody that has interaction with the children is needs the training the most. Right? Of course, it's great to have a superintendent and administration on board. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. But the most important thing is people always miss the mark with the security guards, the janitors, the bus drivers, and the lunch lady. Those are the most influential people because they see things that happen before school, during school, after school. Like you in class teaching, they see what's happening in the hallway, in the bathrooms, in the locker room, who's trying to leave school early. They see, the parents who are dropping their children off, who's getting dropped off, who are they getting dropped off by? Is this the grandparent, so is the parent not involved? Or if the parent is involved, it's because they're working, so now they rely on a grandparent. And then when I call home, home is not responding because home thing like, hey, I'm at work. That's your problem from now to so a lot of schools are taking on the notion of learning more about restorative justice. Now implementing, like it's gonna look different. What you do in Orland, you might totally do something different in Harvey. Because you have to understand, you have to learn how to meet people where they are. Yes, sir.
My name is Sarah Heath. I'm serving on the school board of the Palos Orland District 118. And there's a couple pillars that we're working on that play on this, and part of it came out of the policy from the state of Illinois about reducing the amount of out-of-school suspensions, keeping kids in the classroom, the progressive nature of discipline, trying to look at each infraction as its own action rather than escalating as these infractions to try to continue to get this root cause. Inside our district, we're working on attendance, keeping the kids' butts in seats, making sure that they're coming to school, the truancy is down, and that's part of the formula for the report card. And then social-emotional program, right, is to continue to address the social-emotional, but continuing it back for kids and those families that are having difficulties and challenges, and that exists in every community. To be able to provide the support to them and help them be able to process their emotions, to stay engaged, as you continue to learn, continue to come to school. I know in my own household, school refusal is tough. My daughter will, for emotional reasons, just would not want to go. Right? But to keep the kids in the school in that, and then to be treated fairly and justly as they do make mistakes. So we are, and a lot of that comes from the state of Illinois, from a policy perspective, and we're implementing that. And then internally, we're trying to develop some programs to support kids in that direction.
That's great. I also work with, she is like my right hand, her name is Attorney Jessica Schneider, and so she helped with the amendments in terms of Senate Bill 100. So while I speak about restorative justice, she speaks about the reason why restorative justice is so important as it relates to Public Act 99-0456. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if I'm a teacher and I've never done this before, and I've got a kid in my class that's acting up, what would you recommend? How do I start?
So one is, I tell all my teachers, build relationships. Don't just build relationship with the star student. Build relationship with your most challenging students. Start with them first. And then it's also about checking yourself. Because oftentimes I realize some of my teachers have issues with particular students because of their older brother that they had. So you've already put this student in this box based off of the family dynamics of the situation you may have had with an older brother, older sister. But they're individuals. And so once you be able to say, if I see, like for me, if I see a teacher having a challenge, I'm bringing that teacher and that student together, doing prep, before school or after school, and we're gonna, what's happening? Because I need the two of you to have a relationship. She needs to teach, you need to learn. And what I've realized, even with one of my teachers, based off what you're explaining to me, what I've been able to do, I'm like, I'm not coming in to take over your class. I want to support you. So what supports do you need from me, or what supports do you think you may need from me in order for you to succeed, especially not just with this particular student, but with all students. And so one of the things I've been able to do is step into class. If I know Johnny at 10 a.m., I already know he might get a referral to the dean office, I'm going to be proactive. When Johnny stands in line to go into class, I'm standing right behind him, like, Johnny, we ready? You know, we do like the Wakanda, they have to hold their binder like Wakanda. So I'm like, you ready? You go in this class, and like, what's going on? So as the other students are going in, I'm having a private conversation with him so it can prepare him when he goes into class. And I'm letting him know, like, I'm coming in to support you. Because what I realize is this is your science teacher. You're failing science. So you're failing science because you don't understand. You think it's lame to raise your hand and ask questions. So I'm going to demonstrate what this needs to look like for you in class. So we get in class, and I'm sitting in little small seats with them. And so when she asks a question, and even as a 38-year-old woman with a doctorate degree, I'm looking like, what did she just say? And she's like, Dr. Jones, I'm like, can you explain it again? And he looked at me like, that was easy. Thank you. You could do it too. You know, and so those type of things, and just being able to, you know, have those public deaning moments, those private deaning moments, getting into the classroom. Me as a dean, I'm sitting in classes. Most of my days, I'm sitting in classes with students. I'm learning with them or challenging them. We sit in math class. I'm like, and then the teacher, she makes me more engaged. She's like, Dr. Jones had her hand up first. And everybody like, oh my God, why are you in this? Shouldn't you be in your office? But it's fun. And I mean, you have to, I just came from Nashville, so I'm sorry for the way I'm dressed, but I'm like straight up. I don't want to fly American Airlines again. That's all. Plus those seats are real small. But, I barely got my seatbelt on. I was like, oh Lord, this is
Take care.
But
I gotta be somewhere at 11.
That's fine, no problem.
one of
Thanks
the
for stopping.
things that I was explaining to them, the difference between behavior and culture, is that for me, culture is the thermostat. Behavior is the temperature. And I say that because when you walk into a school or any institution or any organization, you set the tone for what you want. If a teacher is having a bad day, believe me and you, I'm going to get 1 million referrals from that teacher. And then when I had that conversation with the teacher, like, what's going on? It's not me coming to you to say you did something wrong, but something not right, because this is not you. Oh, I woke up late. By the time I got to Dunkin' Donuts, the line was too long. I'm about to get you a Keurig. I already know what your problem is. I got you a small little Keurig for your office. If that's about to, solve that issue. And it's not just about being restorative with the children, being restorative with one another. And I'm not trying to pacify you, but if I know life is going to be so much more grand, and school is going to be seen as a safe space, and we're going to eliminate or decrease suspensions, out-of-school suspension. We don't even have in-school suspension. No, we're not babysitting. Because in-school suspension is like a Band-Aid. If I don't want to learn today, I'm going to do something to go to in-school. But if we eliminate in school, you don't have no choice but to be in class. And I'm telling parents, like, hey, you think you come? I know this might be asking you to do too much, but Johnny is having an issue at 10 a.m. Can you pop up? I can't do it today, but I can do it tomorrow. Cool. Don't tell Johnny you're coming. Because Johnny's going to be on his best behavior if he know mom coming. And then when Johnny sees the two of us working together, like, there's no guidance. You can't play one over the other.
I have 2 questions. The template that you created, is that available someplace for other people, for other schools?
I can share it. I'll share it.
Modify, or, as you said, to their own needs? And my second one, for the peace circles, is there a protocol for that? And, have you created that in one of your books where?
No, it's in my restorative justice training.
Okay, so you see the difference when the parents, it's not just my child, let's do it in this group. Is that what's?
Yeah, and we've even eliminated the idea, like, I'll call parents like, well, Johnny, you don't act like that at home. Like, that's at home. I'm trying to tell you, this is what I'm saying. All the time. That's the reason why I tell parents, like, well, Johnny may not act like that at home. Be here at 10 a.m. You'll see for yourself. And then that's another thing, when you're talking about even me, like, who I was at home was different than who I was at school. Because my mama didn't play. Not saying my teachers didn't, but the teacher, while my mom, I had one-on-one interaction, mine was her last child. So it was really just my mom and I. But we talking about in the classroom, the teacher has to support and assist 30 kids. So I might get away with murder in school because it's not one-on-one. And so when they called my mom, I'm like, she was not like that. I mean, like, she don't even understand. Please don't come up there. But you know, those type of things. So to your question, yes, I do have a template that I'll share with you. Then I also have the Restorative Justice Training Manual that's on Amazon that I typically use for all my trainings. But it gives you like, it's a quick read. Anybody that want to have a glimpse into what restorative justice is and not have to read like a whole dissertation, that's it for you. Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming today, Dr. Jones.
Thank you for having me.
So I like what you had to say about wanting to train the frontline personnel, the janitors, the bus drivers, the teachers, or in criminal justice like officers, right? So those are the ones that are rubbing up against, offenders, or pretrial detainees. Do you think it's possible to be successful with restorative justice in non-safe space settings like a jail? So you got them in jail, right? So you got your kids in school. Now your office is the safe space and practice restorative justice there. You got them in jail. Do you think that's something that can be successful in a stressful environment?
It has the ability to, but the person so when you have these peace circles, the person who facilitates that process is called a circle keeper. And they usually receive like anywhere from 16 to 24 hours of training to facilitate the process, how to use the talking piece, what the centerpiece is, what questions you should ask, and what questions you need to stay away from depending on the situation at hand. Because what you don't want to happen is that you ask a question that excites someone, and now you got a bigger issue than what you already had. So it really depends on, it works with small groups. It works with people. Now, when you talk about in the prison, in the system where people are deemed offenders, it gets a little questionable at times because you don't know people's background. So if someone's coming from the south side of Chicago and they Blackstone, now this is gang talk now, and then you got someone from the west side who's vice lord, that may or may not work depending on who else is in that circle. Like for me, a lot of the guys that I'm working with on Saturdays have all been in juvenile detention centers. So they were more familiarized. When I initially went to go meet them when they were locked up. So we started our relationship while they were behind bars. And then having those conversations with them to say, is this something that you think you would need when you're released? Not as a scapegoat, but something that you really want, not as a mandate, because you can't, restorative justice is not a mandate. Restorative justice means that when people come together, they willingly came. Because the worst thing I could do is say, like, you've got to go to this restorative justice peace circle, and then they sit there like this all day. And what did we solve? So yes, it has the opportunity to work, but you just have to know who are the people who facilitate that process, and you have to do your research to find out who can be in that circle and who can't. Because you don't want to create a more unsafe environment for those, especially if you're talking about gang affiliations, or were they part of the same crime from two different angles, those type of things. So it has the opportunity to work.
Quick follow-up. So that's my background. So I was 15 years with the Cook County Sheriff. I'm no longer a sheriff, but I did 10 years in jail and 5 years on the street doing electronic monitoring. One of the best conversations I ever had was with a Blackstone Ranger, a high-ranking Blackstone Ranger, Junebug, who was 60 years old. His son was locked up. His grandson was locked up, but he finally got it, right? He's like, this was my life, and I doomed them to this life, but so peer restorative justice as well. Now I mean, here in Chicago, the reality is you have certain lines you can't cross, and they're drawn by the gangs, right? But he got it, and he would have been tremendously effective sitting down, and he was on the old man tier, so him and I would just sit and have coffee in the morning and talk and learn about each other. But he was ready to kind of like counsel other people, so you don't have recidivism, and he can get to people that I couldn't, right? Because I didn't live that life. I don't look like he does. I don't have the same background, but he had that standing. But you're right about the gang lines.
Yes, ma'am.
One thing I read about restorative justice is the involvement of the victim with the perpetrator. Is that something that the kids do they face the kid that they wronged? And how does that work?
So with this one particular situation I was talking about with the bullying, it was disheartening because the young lady found me to be her safe space. So she wrote me this long one-page letter. identifying this child name, the young man name, and what that young man said. Me as a mandated reporter, and understanding that bullying is serious, not just because of the situation that happened to the 11-year-old, but it's serious. I've been bullied before, and I realized that when that issue wasn't resolved, I became a bully because no one advocated for me. So to what you're saying is, so I got this situation, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So when I got the parents in front of me, I'm like, it was stated that your child said this. I didn't bleep anything out. I said it as it was written. And then you see the tears falling down the eyes from the parents, like, oh my God, how are you gonna say anything like that? And then the young man sitting there like, I said it. One is accountability. So even though we're in this situation where it's disheartening, but the highlight of that is he took ownership of what he said. He could have easily, like my parents said, I didn't say it. But to say, I did say that, he took it upon himself, like, how do you feel about this? He said, I'm disappointed. Why are you disappointed? Because I said it because it just sounded good as the other boys were saying, and I really like her. I said, so this is what you do when you really like somebody? Because when you really like somebody, regardless of what somebody else is saying, you don't jump on a bandwagon. Now you become a follower. There's one thing, we are all followers at some point in time in our lives, but to follow someone in the wrong direction makes it even worse. So how can you right this wrong? He said, can I write an apology letter? Now, he had a lot of misspelled words, and but it was from the heart. It wasn't say sorry, and then sorry. That's not authentic, because I told you to say sorry. He wrote her, a long letter. I even had to look at it and was like, I'm gonna frame this. This is, you really put your heart into this. And then because he took the initiative to do that, then the other young man was like, hey, hold on. I want to make it right too. It was one young man, he like, no, a little tough Tony, but then there was other consequences that came along with that. Now he has to check in with me every morning before school. He has to check in with me at 10 a.m. and after school, and parents have to come to the school on a more consistent basis until we could figure out what the next step should be. He apologized, but it wasn't authentic. He apologized to everybody else, he just wanted to do something. So that worked out.
We can continue with this conversation, but this is going to die. So I just wanted to stop you somewhere in between and continue. And if the students that are here want to stay, you're welcome to stay. If not, you're welcome to leave.
And I think this gentleman here had a question too.
Thanks.
I was just trying to ask, the programs like Head Start, why they require
You know what, I sat in circles, so under here I'm bald, right? So working with little kids can be challenging when you don't have any hair. Like, oh my God, why you don't have any hair? There you go. But I work with a Head Start program, they do circles. See, oftentimes people are doing the work, they just didn't have a name for it. Or they may have called it conflict resolution, or it was just like circle time, or just community building exercises. And so I sat in for a whole week with this one class in Indian style on the floor, and we just kind of passed, they create their own talking pieces, which is more of a buy-in to help them understand the reason why we have a talking piece in a circle is the reason for the tool of the talking piece is to make sure that the person who has the talking piece talks and everyone else is invited to listen. If you don't have the talking piece, you don't talk. And so one kid was like, so basically saying shut up. Like, you said it. I didn't. And so, those work because you help them build those skills early on. And then you also allow them to have a safe space to voice how they feel. Like, you out here about everything, about my mom's pregnant again, my dad is bad, those type of things. And it's fun because you hear the innocence in their voice, as well as like, help me understand this because I don't get it. Or even reaching out to parents, like, something came up, so just want to make sure that, everything is good, because I am a mandated reporter. And so just being able to be a safe space. So yes, it works in a lot of Head Start programs, but it's something that has to be implemented early on and not wait till things get out of hand, which typically